I'm Brian Lilley, and calling out the media party still. That is the topic of today's byline. So we're not done calling out the media party, because now that Sun's gone, I think they need to be called out even more. Case in point, today's lead editorial in the Globe and Mail. It is a truly shocking piece of bad journalism. It's a truly shocking case of, can these people read? Canada's national newspaper of record, that's what they like to think of themselves, took a look at the Civilian Review and Complaints Commission report into the activities of the Mounties in High River, and they said, everything's good. Nothing to see here. The Mounties did nothing wrong. I'm going to read to you from their editorial today. It's titled, "Did the RCMP confiscate guns in High River? Hardly." To quote from the editorial, "It's not often that one feels sorry for the RCMP. The federal police force has embarrassed itself more than a few times lately and come in for some tough criticism. But a new rebuke of the Mounties' actions during the catastrophic flooding in High River, Alberta in 2013 is unfair, given what the RCMP officers were faced with. Not only that, Prime Minister Stephen Harper owes the Mounties an apology for unfairly criticizing them during the height of the crisis." That's the opening of the editorial. It just gets worse from there. The Globe and Mail goes on to talk about how, everything, the Mounties did a lot of good work. They saved people, they saved pets, they retrieved medications. All of that's true. No one ever disputed that. But what was in dispute was, were the Mounties always on the up and up? Did they go beyond what the law allows? And the answer to that question is clearly yes. And it says so right in the report. But the Globe, they want to gloss over all of that. I want to read to you from their editorial again. They say, "What was unreasonable was that on day 8 of the catastrophe, when stressed-out residents began to complain about what they incorrectly assumed were unwarranted seizures of legal firearms, the Prime Minister's office suddenly weighed in." Now, you'll remember that the Globe and Mail, back a little while ago, about 2 weeks ago, they put out an editorial denouncing Bill C-51, the anti-terrorism bill. And they did so because they said it would create a secret police force for Prime Minister Stephen Harper. What was their big concern? That CSIS would be able to go and get a warrant and do things that they're not allowed to do now, like go in and plant a bug, remove things from your home. But remember, they would have to apply for a warrant. What happened in High River is that the Mounties went into homes without legal authority, seized private property without warrants, and then failed to follow up on the law and go before a judge. Now, on the last byline, Lorne Gunter interviewed Ian MacPhail, the man that authored the report, and he said there was a distinct lack of leadership.
Unfortunately, so much of the good work was obscured by significant communication and leadership failures.
Now, that lack of leadership led to frontline officers doing what maybe they thought was the right thing, but once the higher-ups saw what was happening, they should have just said no. They should have chastised the officers and said, stop doing that. Instead, they accepted it, they applauded it, they defended it. That's not the way it should be. Now, did the report actually show that the Mounties were doing things that were unlawful? Let me play another clip from Lorne Gunter's interview with MacPhail.
We were concerned, absolutely, that on these secondary seizures, there was no authority under the Alberta Management Act. And in cases, and it wasn't possible for us to determine the precise number, but where entries weren't allowed by law, and I should also say that this is a complex area of law, but where entries weren't permitted by law, then any subsequent seizure would also not be permitted.
So to translate from bureaucratese that Mr. MacPhail is used to speaking, the Mounties broke the law. The police officers, the people that were sworn to uphold the law, did not. I want to read from a couple of key findings of his report. Finding number 24, the secondary entries for the specific purpose of seizing unsecured firearms were not authorized by the Emergency Management Act. Finding number 29. In a number of cases, the RCMP seized firearms which were lawfully secured. Finding number 30. RCMP members were not authorized by the Criminal Code to seize secured firearms. Finding number 34. When a secondary entry into a building was not authorized under the Emergency Management Act or common law, the seizure of unsecured firearms was also unauthorized. Now, the Mounties have been relying on what's called Section 489 of the Criminal Code for seizing firearms that were in plain sight. Fine, in some cases, the report does find that the police did seize firearms that were in plain sight. So they didn't break the law. They took them on their first entry. They saw that they were there. They took them. But you know what they didn't do? They didn't go before a judge. They didn't follow up on the next section of the law, Section 489.1, that says any items taken from a private dwelling by police without a warrant, well, you need to go before a justice and explain yourself and document what was taken. And the Mounties didn't do any of that. They failed miserably in doing that. Now, what's the Globe and Mail's reaction? Everything's just fine. And it's not up to the Mounties to apologize. It's up to Stephen Harper to apologize. We are looking to continue the work that we were doing at Sun News. And the reason is that the other guys just simply will not tell the truth. They won't tell the truth, and they won't come clean on what's happening. So you get a report that says the Mounties broke the law, they look the other way. I get people having concerns about the new anti-terror bill. I get saying that it needs to be looked at by committee. But I don't get worrying more about the potential civil liberties violations of suspected terrorists than you do about the actual civil liberties violations against law-abiding gun owners in Canada. And that's the byline.